Jonah.
All right. Pleasure.
Team Foxtrot, you will have 20 minutes to present your solution to the judges. You will be given a warning at 5 and 2 minutes. Sorry. After 20 minutes, the presentation will be stopped immediately. No information will be considered after 20 minutes has lapsed. Following the presentation, there will be a 10-minute question and answer. You will be given a warning when 2 minutes remain. The question and answer will be stopped after 10 minutes. You may begin when ready.
Throughout history, Mastercard has embraced transformation. When you go on their website, the first thing you see is transformation and change and modernity. And you want to see Mastercard succeed through this transformation. From simple things like their logo now being represented by 2 circles and being recognized all over the world, to more complicated things like their management styles that they've innovated over time. We believe they should take this same idea of transformation and apply it to their automation systems, which is why we proposed the method that we did. So the first thing that I'm going to do today is introduce myself. I'm Jonah Burton, and we are Team Foxtrot.
I'm Alex Henry.
Andrew Singleton.
And I'm Vicki Gallo.
So when we looked at this case, we saw 4 main automation strategies that we looked into to see what would work best for Mastercard. So we decided to take a SWOT analysis of each one and determine the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for each method as it relates to Mastercard. So the first thing we did is I looked at traditional IT, which was my focus for the case. So one of the strengths is that the machines in traditional IT can accomplish any task that you want them to. They're very general and very flexible machines. Next, one of the weaknesses of this is the very slow implementation time. So Mastercard is definitely trying to get this idea out as soon as it can. So the slow implementation time could spell disaster. Very slow time, very lengthy processes makes people leery of the new technology. But one of the opportunities is the continuous improvement in traditional IT. Many large IT companies are constantly improving their methods, and Mastercard could ride this success into becoming a more global and more modern company. And we believe this would be a very great opportunity for Mastercard. Lastly, the threat. As most automation things, there's a very large upfront capital investment in the machinery. And we believe this would pose a huge threat because of also the slow implementation time. We believe that along with the high risk of the large cost upfront, would really make people leery of implementing this strategy over time. So next I'm going to give it to Alex, who's going to talk about his SWOT analysis.
Thank you, Jonah. So I did the fit for purpose technologies. So the strengths that come with that are you can customize it to fit the needs of your business. So for MasterCard, you could customize it to pick out certain frauds, and maybe if you wanted to leave others out, you could. Not saying that you will, but you could. And the weaknesses that come with it are the high cost of customization. So we looked at a company called UiPath. It's a software developing company. And like if you wanted the base model that they give to most companies, it'd be around $4,000 per computer or per bot. But if you wanted a customizable one, it could be up to $25,000. Now if you add that to all your computers at MasterCard, it could be a lot of money. So the opportunities that come with it, well, it'll allow MasterCard to deliver a better product. So if you customize it, you can fit the needs that you want and what the customers are looking for and meet those needs. And then the threats are it's not standardized enough for a large company as MasterCard is. So with thousands of transactions going on a day at MasterCard, maybe customizing isn't the best, but if it was a smaller company, it could work. And now I'll give it to Andrea, who'll talk about RPAs.
So robotic process automation's biggest strength is the ability to mix human interaction with the robotic action perfectly. However, it relies heavily on super mundane, repetitive, mature tasks. The opportunities with it, it's able to put employees on more value-added tasks, so it gives a higher ROI to MasterCard. However, a threat with that is implementing RPA on incorrect processes that might not maximize the ROI. And now Vicki's going to talk about intelligent automation.
Thank you. So looking at intelligent automation, one of their strengths is its ability to process a situation and develop a decision off of that. And that's because it has a cognitive aspect, so it can take information like language and process it. One of its weaknesses is that it limits employee engagement. This is due to its cognitive aspect because tasks that previously could only be performed by employees are now able to be done by this technology. One of the opportunities is that it has the capabilities to perform other activities, again due to the cognitive aspect. It can be applied to a wide range of business problems. And some threats are increased risk of cybersecurity and aversion from employees. This is because it does have the potential to take their jobs away. So where does this leave us? Well, we all really liked the RPA system. This was because of its ability to repetitively get a task done, but we also really liked intelligent automation, and that's due to the cognitive aspect. So we decided to think out of the box and take a risk and create a hybrid automation system, CRPA, which stands for Cognitive Robotic Process Automation, and this takes the components of RPA and combines it with the cognitive aspects of artificial intelligence to smooth over the weaknesses of RPA and capitalize on its strengths. Next, I'm going to pass it to Andrea to talk about our 6-month strategy.
So this is what the action plan for the RPA implementation would look like. We're going to start with a 4 to 6 week proof of concept, which assesses the opportunity for CRPA at Mastercard, and then we'll showcase to the shareholders to secure the commitment to implement this. Second, we'll establish a Center of Excellence, which is approximately 3 months. During this time, we'll hire RPA team members, we will define prioritization of the rollout, and we will establish an operation model. Third is the 6 to 12 week initial pilots, where we'll assess the processes that we think will give the highest and best benefit to Mastercard to automate with CRPA. And then we'll document these step by step the way they're done manually currently, and we'll send them off to the developers to develop the bots. Lastly is the 6-month final implementation, where we'll test the bots, and then we'll train the end user, which is the business process owner, who is currently doing the process manually right now. We'll have to then supervise the bot, and it's very easy to train them, so that isn't an issue at all. Then we'll place the bots into production. So since this is an international business competition, we like to focus on the global aspect. So basically, we'd like to apply the 6-month action plan to each of the 5 regional headquarters of Mastercard. And once the Center of Excellence is set up at those 5 regional headquarters, we'll branch out to the subsidiaries, and finally, we hope in 5 years to have RPA integrated in each of these 5 areas, including the Middle East, Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Lastly, you're probably wondering about the Center of Excellence. So the Center of Excellence sets up the robotic operating team, which includes the solution manager and the CRPA engineers who develop the bots. Second, it'll create a technical environment. The technical environment is necessary to provide the technical tools to maintain and support the bots and track their performance. Lastly, it'll establish the governance models, which will assess RPA opportunity, prioritize which RPA projects to work on first, and lastly, establish the roles and responsibilities of the solutions manager and the RPA engineers. And Alex will talk about the jobs more.
So we're looking to implement 2 jobs, as Andrea said. The first one will be the RPA engineer. So we're looking for someone that has 3 years of experience working with RPAs and a master's degree in computer engineering. And they'll need good communication skills. They'll need that in order to transcribe what they've worked and implementing the RPA and telling the solution managers how they did it and what they need to look for in case anything goes wrong. So, like I said, their job requirements will be code the RPA, implement the RPA, and then track how they did it. Tracking it will be able to step-by-step process on how they did it, so then they can pass that information on to the other HQs. So they'll need to be on call 24/7, 365 days a year. This is in case anything goes wrong. They'll have all the knowledge on the system and be able to fix it or tell other people how to fix it. And then they need to manage databases. This will be in case new technology comes out, or like I said, if anything goes wrong, they can bring the compliance standards up to where Mastercard wants them in case nothing goes wrong. So the second job is the solutions manager. They'll need 7+ years of experience working with RPA. And then we're looking for a bachelor's degree, probably in management information technology. And they'll need direct experience with RPA, like I said. So they'll need leadership abilities to manage a mid-sized team of probably 5 to 8 people. And they'll be telling them how to implement the RPA system in their headquarters, and then, and then they'll need to act as a liaison from the engineers and IT to the business people who will be working with the system every day. Now I'll pass it to Jonah, who will talk about the benefits of RPA.
So when looking through the case at the end, it really asked us to find some benefits of RPA that weren't just hard dollar numbers or just the triple bottom line. And we had to find these kind of secondary benefits. So the first thing we looked at is customer satisfaction, which is a huge benefit to Mastercard because they deal a lot in this way. So the first thing is the reduction in manual errors. Humans make a lot of mistakes, and hopefully we can get our robots to make much fewer mistakes. And it also gives people faster service, faster communication with their employees, more accurate communication. It would really leave customers more satisfied overall. And then analytics. Big data is huge now, and Mastercard needs to kind of get into this realm and use data quality, use data analytics in order to build this RPA system. And then they'll always have this database to fall back on, and this track record, as we talked about through our roles, they'll really be able to track what they did and implement it into our other regional headquarters. And then next we looked at the overall benefits. So it always comes back to the triple bottom line. It always has to come back to money. But we think overall this could improve our business results or the triple bottom line. It could also reduce wage costs. Now this could reduce training costs over time. We're looking for continuous improvement. We really want Mastercard to continuously improve through this process. Our 6-month plan is a baseline. As we get further, we want this process to be faster, we want it to be smoother, and we want the business to benefit more overall and decrease those training costs that I'll talk about later. And then HR, we'll have reduced churn, we'll also have a brand boost. As I talked about at the beginning, Mastercard is now just 2 circles. They don't even have words on their name. In 2016, they had a study. They went around the world and they asked people everywhere if they recognized those 2 circles. 84% of people said yes globally, and that's why they took the name off. Mastercard obviously has great brand recognition all over the world, and we think that's crucial to its success and a great strength that we should work on when looking globally, when people just recognize by those 2 simple circles. And then next, compliance. As Alex talked about, it's really important to be in compliance, especially in this industry. There's a huge threat for security risk, and a lot of the information being dealt with is very sensitive information. So this would also help us with the fraud aspect that the case talked about. Reducing fraud through those less human interactions. We're getting more accurate, more consistent, and more standardized data going through our system. So then next, it always comes back to the financials. How feasible is this for Mastercard, and how much will this cost? So first of all, through looking at LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and finding similar jobs to solution managers, we found it's going to cost us about $250,000 a year to hire 3 of them. So that's a little over $80,000 a piece. And then we would hire 2 CRPA engineers, which according to industry averages is about $100,000 for these engineers that develop RPA system. And then we would look at training costs. So for the first year, we'd look at $50,000 for training costs. We really think it's essential to put in this upfront training costs in each regional headquarters we go to make sure people understand what RPA can do for them. A lot of people are leery of robots coming into their business. They're leery of outsiders. They're leery of those things. So putting in these training costs, letting people know you are working alongside this. This will aid you. This will help your job easier. Allowing those things to happen to your employees will really ease their sense of mind. And also through that, we'd like to promote from within. We'd like people to see their fellow colleagues getting promoted to management. We don't want to hire from outside and bring in robots at the same time and overwhelm people. We want to see people from Mastercard succeed internally, and we want to promote these people to these positions so they can succeed together, to succeed with their colleagues. And then next, we want to look at the licensing per bots. So we took an average and we looked at the pessimistic, optimistic, average cost of robots. And we really think since Mastercard is such a large company, buying so many robots, we could really get a partnership and contracts with these companies, which would hopefully reduce this $100,000 license per year. But that's what we're looking at right now. It's about $10,000 to start off with, we think is a realistic number. And then next, fragmentation. This is one of the underlying costs of RPA that a lot of people forget about. When one side of the business is ahead of the other or behind the other, you see this fragmentation in implementation. So in the 6-month strategy, it's crucial to get it within that 6 months. So we don't want it expanded to an 8-month strategy or 12-month strategy. We want to stop this fragmentation and really sync people up so everything's happening in conjunction. And then the testing of the CRPA. So we assume this will be about $10,000. So what we're going to do is create a run application, which is basically an offline mode for Mastercard that they could run their RPA system offline using bots, interactions, sending emails to bots instead of clients. Because the data is so sensitive, we think it's essential to have an offline mode, a practice mode, to catch mistakes before they're actually in the real world. You are dealing with insanely sensitive data, so to send out one wrong email could cost Mastercard hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in fraud charges and compliance issues, and they could really have an issue after that, especially in foreign countries. Foreign governments are not very lax with their fraud regulations, so Mastercard definitely wants to be in compliance with every government. And then next, we want to look at risks and how we mitigate these risks. So we've already talked about this, but I just wanted to recap what you've seen, these risks that we've laid out and how we're mitigating them. So first of all, the failure to properly apply CRPA. RPA is very difficult to apply in some situations because of the disconnect. You have engineers developing and you have people using it. There's this huge disconnect between people, and you really need this solutions manager in order to smooth this over, to connect the people, to act as a liaison, as Alex said, between the IT people and the business side in order to really keep that over. And as I said, we would be looking to promote from within for those positions. And lastly, this high initial investment. As with all automation, there is that scary initial investment that people are often leery of. But we think the quantitative data we supplied through our financials and the secondary benefits through increased customer service, our brand recognition that is essential to any credit card company, will really help smooth over this initial cost and really make it clearly worth it for Mastercard in the long run and the short run. So then, as this is, it's an international competition. We really wanted to look at how this applies to Mastercard internationally. They're in over 210 countries, over 45 languages being spoken by their employees. They would be silly not to apply this internationally, to apply this system that's helping them here. So we'd like to start it here and then move it to the regional headquarters, as we said. So we'd like to hire local employees and use those employees to help us understand the culture and manage the culture and be open-minded going into these places, that even though we have a task set up and a strategy set up, it has to be flexible. We're not going to get the same exact issues, the same scenarios in foreign countries, so we have to be flexible is the most important thing when implementing this abroad. So then the next thing, of course, inadequate support services. Some of the countries, Mastercard has headquarters in Singapore, in Belgium, in Miami, in New York, all over the world they have headquarters. And we're looking at these headquarters, some of these places don't have the technology of the US. They don't have the RPA systems, they don't have the infrastructure to support this. So really through looking at this, we'd like to transport that technology. We have our people, we're transporting people and we're transporting technology. We're using our solutions managers as liaisons. When they go over to another country, they smooth the process, they have experience. We've trained them through our centers of excellence. And we really want to see these people succeed, so we want to give them all the essential things they need in the country. We don't want to see them hung out to dry. So transporting that, although it may seem expensive for shipping costs, we think it's definitely worth it to smooth over the process and really hit that 6-month goal in every market. So overall, Mastercard needs to embrace this change. We've talked about the CRPA, this hybrid method that applies the artificial intelligence aspect to RPA. It really smooths over the weaknesses of RPA that we saw. We can't have an RPA system without that cognitive ability, that ability to talk to someone and report to something that you trust, that human interaction. And we think Mastercard should embrace this change. They should embrace the transformation that they've always used and adopt this CRPA method moving forward so they can be as successful as a business as possible and they don't fall by the wayside like so many other companies have when looking at automation. Thank you. So we'll now take questions.
So you guys talked a lot about CRPA. Is there a specific technology or set of technologies that you guys would recommend? And if not, have you put thoughts around how Mastercard would go about identifying the right technologies to use? Because there's probably dozens or hundreds in the industry to choose from.
So the cognitive part that we would like to go to is the artificial intelligence part of intelligent automation.
So you've worked with what, like the company you used?
Yeah, I work with RPA. We haven't progressed into the CRPA yet, so I'm not too knowledgeable about it, but I think in this situation artificial intelligence would be our
and we also see this increase in CRPA. When we were looking at it, we looked for about an hour and we were like, we really like RPA, but we can't do it without that artificial intelligence aspect. It's just not enough to not have that human and the ability to read text and things like that. We can't just do the mundane tasks. We have to have this aspect. And then I looked it up and I was researching and I found this CRPA, which is increasing, it's becoming more popular, so we could use companies that we cited and that we looked up the prices and things like that, and we could use those machines that already have the automated intelligence, and we could really, I think we could use that to create a system that's better than RPA, that's better than IA, and we could create this hybrid system that would give us the best opportunity to succeed for Mastercard, especially.
When you look at the recommended robotics operating committee and a center of excellence, so in the first example, I think that was in the case we talked about, a fraud case, but realistically, there are many myriads of human activities that could be replaced by CRPA. So how would this operating committee evaluate, because there are literally millions of things that could come before the operating committee, what framework would you use to decide which one would you pick?
So part of the Center of Excellence will establish you put together documentation that'll standardize the process of how you evaluate which processes to prioritize, basically. That could range to anything to just focusing on the art, like how repetitive is it, how manual is it, how low of judgment do you need. But I mean, with the case, this is why we went with the hybrid model, because it showed, like, for the fraud, the automation needs to be able to detect what fraud is, and that's hard for RPA on its own. So I guess when evaluating what processes, you just have to establish what is most important to automate.
Have you guys thought about the methodology for quantifying or qualifying some of the non-financial benefits? And on the slide, we had a lot of those things listed. In my experience, it's easier said than done. How would you guys recommend that Mastercard go about actually kind of quantifying or qualifying those benefits?
So I mean, you could look at the amount of training hours you're not doing anymore. You know, training is a huge expense. So if you're training someone just to put in journal entries in a MBS system, you know, just tracking down how many hours of that isn't needed anymore.
It's really hard to quantify until you actually have the systems in place specifically, but we definitely looked at the general guidelines. Like there's the definitely unquantifiable things like customer satisfaction that you're not going to see ever a direct investment, but we tried to focus on the things we could fix, like lowering training costs over time. That's why our financials try to get lower over time for the training costs, the initial cost for things, because we really want to see those quantifiable things be shown that they are improving, because it's very difficult. And when working in an RPA system, you can't judge return on investment until you actually have the machines in place, because everything's unique. That's why it's so important that we have artificial intelligence, because each situation is unique, and it's very difficult to judge that ROI until we actually get into the process and we see what Mastercard has that we can automate for them.
So you're telling me I got to invest $4 million before you can tell me what the benefit is?
Well, I'm saying that if you look at the general guidelines for the RPA system, you're looking at the standard, you're looking at the industry standard. So you have to have this team that sets it up. And as Andrew said, you're looking at a proof of concept first. You're showing the tasks that we can fix. So this would be in the first stages. I'm not saying 6 months down the road, you're saying, what are we fixing? I'm saying in the first stages of it, you have a group of people that are saying, is this feasible? What could we do? They're looking at specific to Mastercard processes to see what they could save. So they can get these estimates before, but until you actually have someone inside the company that's seeing the processes, it's impossible to estimate what the cost would be. But I really think that before you invest that $4 million, definitely, as Andrew was talking about, you have to have that initial thing that's the proof of concept, the initial numbers, and the figures that back it up. And I definitely agree that you don't want to spend, nobody wants to spend $4 million on something that's hypothetical. So I think in that early process, it's important to show that there is a proof of concept for Mastercard specifically.
I agree with that, but I think overall, it feels like there's a foregone conclusion that you're going to make the investment in automation. And so what's the benefit? You showed a whole cost breakdown, but what's the benefit? And at the end of the day, I've got to know what I'm getting out of this. And maybe you can expand on that for me. Maybe I missed it in the presentation.
You're reducing your training costs. You're making it faster you're reacting to the market faster. You're putting your employees on more value-added tasks instead of just entering journal entries. They could be working on, I don't know, how are they gonna, I don't know.
Like developing a new technology, like using your phone instead of actually using a credit card. So they could be
they could focus on a project like that.
That's the way the world
I mean,
is
according
going.
to Mastercard, it definitely is. On their website, they say we're trying to go cardless in the next 2 years. So I'd say, according to Mastercard's case, we view that as important, that we go cardless, that we start using things like our phones, that we take the employee ideas. They're seeing these every day. They're seeing, oh, everyone's moving to Venmo, everyone's moving to automatic transactions. Why are we still using cards? And they see that and they react to it. So we're taking what Mastercard feels. We're customizing this to Mastercard. We feel that they know it's important, that cards are going to be gone in a few years, and they're trying to get on top of that, and that's what this does. That helps us get ahead of things. That helps us implement these things before the competition, and it really, yesterday I sat there and I called their customer service. I tried to report a fraud. I was on the phone, 30 minutes on hold, got transferred to another bank because they use that fourth-party logistics. Every other credit card company, every other major uses third-party logistics. Direct communication, if you call up Discover, they'll talk directly to you. They don't send you to KeyBank, or they don't send you to a smaller bank. And I think that's really important for Mastercard, is getting to that third party, getting to that direct communication. Because when I call Mastercard, if I had a card with them and I sat on hold for 40 minutes and I was emotional because I had to report a fraud and someone just stole my identity and I'm on hold for 40 minutes and I get transferred to all these frequently asked questions page and I never get to talk to a human, I think that's definitely important for Mastercard moving forward.
Within your cost estimates, did you, in talking about return on investment, did you guys consider the cost of maintenance and change as you look at those automations over the life of the process?
Yeah, we definitely tried to implement that maintenance. Alex worked a lot with the financials and how.
So like on the training cost, there was like the extra 5,000 that went from year to year. And I figured that would just be if like technology updated or maintenance, that you could throw that 5,000 in there. Probably be more, but yeah.
There's also going to be a lot of communication between the business process owner and the Center of Excellence that can communicate those. You know, if there's an update with a system that the robot is working in, you know, it's really important for that communication to be communicated to the Center of Excellence so they can get on top of that before that system crashes and the robot doesn't work and the operations are shut down. So.
I had to laugh when you said you're going to hire engineers with good communication skills.
Oh yeah, I thought that's what we created this job description. That's what I said to them. I said we need basically a nerd herder. We need someone to we need a nerd herder. We need someone to take these engineers and somehow help them communicate. And that's what our solutions. I mean, I created a whole job description because I knew someone would be like engineers with great communication skills, great social skills. So I had to throw together this whole thing just to talk about what we need, what we're looking for. We somehow need to find that niche person that is an engineer and can talk to people and communicate things effectively. But I think Mastercard being such a large organization, I think we can find someone eventually. Especially with this, it's a generous job, a unique job, opportunity for travel, everything up there. Good experience with the person, but yeah, the communication aspect definitely something we have to look hard into.
That's actually real life though, because the company I work for that is implementing RPA actually, like, they really wanted engineers who had good communication skills, and he was like, it was almost impossible. They found one person.
It's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't think $100,000 is enough to cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at that initial. I was just looking at industry averages. Like I looked on LinkedIn, the exact same job title. It was about 90,000. I was like Mastercard, maybe this international aspect, but yeah, we might have to give them a signing bonus for having good communication skills.
The company I work for has outsourced it to India, so their
That's an opportunity.
costs are extremely low. So, but I mean that comes with its pros and cons
Yeah.
too. You're communicating with Indians.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.